movie sequels. They've been around since the dawn of time, and they're a guaranteed way to make the studios a lot of money while pissing audiences off. But I'm never talking about you, Shrek 2. Hi, I'm Amori, and I'm here today to talk about a movie that I really hate. And that movie is American Psycho 2, All-American Girl. Now, you may be asking yourself, wait, what? Amori, there's a sequel to American Psycho? The critical and commercial darling starring Christian Bale as titular serial killer Patrick Bateman? To which I respond, there really shouldn't be. American Psycho 2 is a stain on the namesake of its predecessor, and frankly should not be allowed to be uttered in the same sentence as its cooler, hotter, older sister. Whoa, aren't you being a little harsh? It's just a movie, it's not like anybody died. But to that I say, I love a bad movie. When a movie premieres with a 10% on Rotten Tomato, that is not a deterrent for me. That is an invitation because I know I'm about to have the best viewing experience of my entire life. Cats the musical, the movie, I saw it twice in theaters, and I'd see it again. All the OG Resident Evil movies, give me 20 more of them, please. Bro, I freaking watched 7 seasons of Riverdale without a gun to my head, purely for my enjoyment. That is 137 episodes, and I loved every minute of it. So when I come across a film that I actually find kind of abhorrent, I have to give it some lashings because my standards are not very high. And I don't think I'm even saying anything particularly unique. I mean, just look at the Rotten Tomato score. And I mean the audience score. When the audience score is lower than the critics, that's when you know there's a problem here. Hell, let's ask the star of the film, Miss Mila Kunis. In an interview with MTV News, when asked about the film, Mila Kunis is quoted as saying, "Please, somebody stop this. Write a petition. When I did the second one, I didn't know it would be American Psycho 2. It was supposed to be a different project, and it was re-edited, but ooh, I don't know, bad." My main unit of measurement on if a film is truly bad is whether or not I find it boring. You can truly serve me hot crap on a plate, but as long as I'm entertained, I will gladly give it the most coveted prize in all of cinema, the Amori stamp of approval, or at least a 2.5 on Letterboxd. Unfortunately, American Psycho 2 does not earn either of these honors. Instead, I believe it ends up being more of a cacophony of bad writing, unimpressive skills, and worst of all, boringness. So, let's dig into it. Oh, and spoilers ahead for American Psycho 2 if you really care. American Psycho 2 has very little in common with the original movie. Let's refer to the IMDb log lines for each film. Whereas the original movie is described as being about a wealthy New York City investment banking executive, Patrick Bateman, hides his alternate psychopathic ego from his coworkers and friends as he delves deeper into his violent hedonistic fantasies. Whereas American Psycho 2 is described as being about a girl named Rachel Newman who's developed a taste for murder and will stop at nothing to become a college professor's assistant. We're comparing apples to oranges here. Whereas the first film is a poignant exploration of themes like identity, masculinity, consumerism, and misogyny, the second one ends up being more of a campy teen slasher set on a college campus, and I can't even really call it a slasher because half the kills happen off screen for some reason. The movie starts with a poorly conceived flashback sequence which sees the main character, Rachel, played by Mila Kunis, as a young child. Her babysitter, for some unknown reason, has decided to take her with her on her date with none other than prolific serial killer Patrick Bateman from the first one. I know you might not be able to tell that that's Patrick Bateman because they couldn't afford Christian Bale, but trust me, that's him. That's the back of his head right there. Rachel and her babysitter are tied up by Patrick, and at first she's a little bit spooked, but then she quickly gets annoyed at the whole situation and breaks free and grabs an ice pick and kills Patrick Bateman. Okay. That's right, folks. The American Psycho has been murdered by a 12-year-old girl within the first 5 minutes of the film. Yes, clap, it's good, clap. This was a bad attempt to somehow link the plot of the original movie with this college teen slasher. And I want you to know that this is where any connection between the two films ends. None of this really comes up ever again. The threads that hold these two movies together are so flimsy that a nice summer breeze could blow in and completely rip the threads apart. And I can't blame the creative team completely because this film was actually never intended to be an American Psycho 2 or have anything to do with the original film. The original title of the movie was The Girl Who Couldn't Die. But after realizing that American Psycho was a commercial and critical darling, making around $34 million on a $7 million budget, holding a 7.6 out of 10 on IMDb, and most importantly a 3.8 out of 5 on Letterboxd, aka the People's Motion Picture Academy, seeing an opportunity to capitalize on that film's success and bolster DVD sales, Lionsgate had the script changed to have it link back to American Psycho. So in my mind, none of this is canon. In fact, none of this should have happened. After watching the beginning, there are some questions that I have. Number 1. Even if she didn't know that her date was going to be a serial killer, why did the babysitter bring the child on the date with her? Question number 2. Is 12-year-old Mila Kunis really strong, or does Patrick Bateman just not know how to tie a proper knot? Question number 3. After she got home from the incident, did her parents never ask any questions about where her babysitter's at, or they just pushed past? I guess we'll never know. Anyways, fast forward a bit and Rachel Newman is now a freshman at the prestigious Washington University, famously known for having the best behavioral studies program in the country. That's right, Rachel Newman is trying to join the BAU. Yup, that BAU. The program is headed by this guy named Starkman, who is said to be the FBI's most prolific serial killer hunter, and he's a legend in the force, blah, 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 blah. The most important aspect of this is that anybody who is his TA basically has a guaranteed spot into Quantico, which is Rachel Newman's dream and life's mission, and she will stop at nothing to achieve it. Homegirl has a perfect GPA and a dream, which I respect. I can't be mad at it. Enter our players, aka Rachel's competition in the race to become the TA. We have Brian Leitz. He's dumb, has a low GPA, but he's a rich boy Nepo baby. That counts for something in this world. Number 2, we have Cassandra Blair. Rumor has it that she's Professor Starkman, but Rachel doesn't believe it, right? Number 3, Keith Lawson, who Rachel views as her biggest threat because he's the only one that's actually smart and qualified for the position. See, that's called black excellence right there. Now let's get into Rachel's murder spree. Yeah, she's the killer. Victim number 1. She goes to turn in her TA application to the front office, and the lady working there named Gertrude is like, "Oh sweetie, we don't hire freshmen to be TAs." So naturally, instead of just waiting and applying next year when she's eligible, Rachel decides to crash out, follow her home, and put this lady's cat in the microwave. She put the cat in the microwave. Upon realizing her cat's in the microwave, Gertrude kind of casually meanders over and saves the feline's life, but that doesn't really matter because Rachel ends up just bludgeoning her to death with her Employee of the Year statue. To be honest, this kill is quite inconsequential to the overall narrative. In fact, I would say most kills in this movie are inconsequential to Rachel and her overall life and life goals, but I like this one because it's kind of funny. Why'd you put that lady's cat in the microwave? What if she didn't get there in time? Victim number 2, rich boy Nepo Brian. Aw. Brian takes Rachel out on a date to brag about his rich boy donor daddy status, requests that she drop out of the race for TA, and overall trick her into liking him. Fast forward a bit, they go on this cringe date to this diner, and by the end of it, they're so #drunk, #white girl wasted, that they stumble their way back to Rachel's dorm to hook up. Upon realizing that they don't have any condoms, Brian says something crazy.
What, you don't have any?
Listen, don't worry. I'll take care of everything when the time comes.
Rachel leaves to go get a condom. Brian makes himself at home, but not before a mysterious figure appears behind him and chokes him to death with none other than the condom. And in the process, utters perhaps the most important line of the entire film.
Ribbed for her pleasure.
Maybe this is a good movie. Now, there's this therapist character that Rachel kind of likes to toy with throughout the movie, and his name escapes me at the moment. His name is Dr. Daniel. Dr. Eric Daniel. Dr. Eric Daniel is his name. She starts seeing him under a fake alias and consistently drops hints that she's a psycho obsessed with Professor Starkman. And the thing about Dr. Daniel that makes him different than other therapists is that he really don't give a damn about HIPAA. As soon as Rachel exits the room, he hits up Professor Starkman to drop some vague hints about one of his students potentially being an American Psycho 2 werewolf in London. And Professor Starkman's like, okay, I'm picking up what you're putting down, but he was not, in fact.
I'm nodding like I understand, but I'm not so sure I do.
Professor Starkman thought that Dr. Daniel was referring to Cassandra Blair from earlier, who is the student that Professor Starkman is having an affair with. Does that make sense? You see, her web, it connects us all. Not important, but Rachel goes on runs in this movie, and my question is, why do these people in the suburbs, why are they always running in the middle of the street? Let's not be surprised when the car comes. Movie done. Victim number 3, Cassandra Blair. There's a mixer for the behavioral studies department, and afterwards Cassandra Blair comes up to Rachel and is like, OMG, good news. Did you hear that I'm the top candidate for the TA position? And Rachel is like, what? That makes 0 sense. And Cassandra's like, yes, it makes perfect sense. I'm literally sleeping with the professor. Big mistake. Rachel ends her life. Yeah. And she makes it look like she did it herself. Yeah. Although Cassandra Blair, you didn't do much for me personally, and your personality wasn't particularly interesting, I have grown a certain fondness towards you and how wealthy your name sounds. Cassandra Blair. In another lifetime, you would not be enrolled at Washington University in the Behavioral Studies program. You would be skipping around the daisy fields in springtime and picking apples from the orchard. Victim number 4, Keith Lawson. We see Rachel's back in class, and let me just pause and say, what are they studying in this class? Every time they show us the classroom, on the board, it's just a list of past serial killer nicknames. No curriculum, no assignments, just vibes, truly. And let me be clear to you all, this is not a class. This is more of a Pinterest board full of serial killer aesthetics. Anyways, Rachel stalks her biggest competition, Keith Lawson, to the library to take care of the competition, if you know what I mean. And the way that she does this is that she walks up to him and stabs him in the middle of the day in the public library. Yeah, and nobody catches her. Right. I think that's a main problem that I have throughout most of this movie is that at this point, multiple people have gone missing and nobody gives a There's nobody hot on her trail. Nobody's noticed anything has gone wrong. Take Brian Leitz, for example. His entire personality is that he was an important rich boy Nepo baby. And you expect me to believe that he has gone missing for days now and there's been nary a whisper? You expect me to believe that bro's dad didn't hire a PI the moment he went MIA for more than 48 hours? Come on. While all this is happening, at some point, Professor Starkman decides to visit his child bride, Cassandra Blair, at her dorm room, and he discovers Cassandra Blair's body hanging there, staged to look like a suicide by Miss Mila Kunis. Now remember, the student that Professor Starkman thought that Dr. Daniel had warned him about was Cassandra Blair, now deceased. So he calls up the doctor, tweaking, throwing up, etc., etc. No bueno. So as a reasonable reaction to his crash out, he immediately takes a sabbatical and has announced that there's going to be no TA for the semester. So now, Rachel, what did you accomplish? You killed all these people, you made the man have a mental breakdown, and now there's not even going to be a TA. So you were just killing for fun at that point. Logically, after hearing this, Rachel's first reaction is to put on her freakum dress and go find Professor Starkman. She comes across the professor in his office, popping pillies and drinking brown liquor, and she's like, hey, I've always loved you even more than your previous wife, Clara. To which I'm like, who is Clara? In the big twist, it's revealed that Rachel's babysitter from the beginning of the movie was Professor Starkman's ex-wife, now deceased, killed by Patrick Bateman. Whoa. That's crazy. Starkman is just so shocked by this revelation that he falls out the window and dies. And on the way out, Rachel kills a janitor and a security guard and blah, 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 blah. I don't care. Guys, I'm gonna keep it real with you. By this point, I was truly so bored. I was so bored and I was so confused how the movie is still going on. If Professor Starkman's gone, the TA position's gone, why am I still here? The plot, it might sound mildly interesting, but it's not. It's because of me. It's not because of the movie. The soundtrack is cartoonish. And although I love Mila Kunis, I don't know what Rachel got going on. I do not understand her thought process to this day. If we talk a little bit about American Psycho Part 1, by this point we see Patrick Bateman descend into mania or madness as we're left trying to differentiate between his psyche and the real world. But here we have Rachel Newman, who's been pretty even-keeled throughout the entire film. There's not really any levels to her. Her whole motivation was to become TA and get into Quantico. But alas, all these murders are gonna ruin the tour. It's the last day before everyone leaves for spring break, and ding dong, who's at the door? It's Rachel's mom, yay! Rachel goes out to dinner with her parents. While she's out at this restaurant, she sees Dr. Daniel with his mom and decides to stop in and spook him a little bit. And finally, Dr. Daniel's like, wait a minute, what are you doing here? Because he thinks that Rachel is dead because Professor Starkman called him talking about, oh no, the student you warned me about is dead. But he was referring to Cassandra Blair, not Rachel Newman. But finally, in the last act, someone in the movie decides to get off their ass and do some investigating.
It seems like nobody wants to work these days.
After dinner, Dr. Eric Daniel goes to the police and inquires like, hey, have there been any missing people reported recently? The biggest twist of the movie is revealed that Rachel Newman, who we know and love, is not the real Rachel Newman. Gasp! So what had happened is that Mila Kunis found Rachel and realized that Rachel was an orphan, which makes her the perfect target. So she killed her and has hid her body in a garment bag in her dorm room closet all this time. The original Rachel was reported missing by some students in her dorm, but when they come to investigate, Mila Kunis opens the door and is like, nope, I'm Rachel and I'm perfectly fine. And of course, the police ask 0 follow-up questions. So another W for the boys in blue. At first glance, this makes sense. Sure, Mila Kunis stole this girl's identity to get into the school and do nefarious things. However, my question is this. If the original Rachel was reported missing by other students at the school, when Mila Kunis takes her place, did none of those students ever be like, hey, you're like a different girl now? Like, you are not the Rachel Newman that I reported missing a couple days ago. Everyone just like accepted that Mila Kunis is Rachel now? Or so now the cops know that Rachel is not the real Rachel and they're in hot pursuit. New Rachel, who is not the original Rachel, who is Mila Kunis, is now she's crashing out. I don't even know what she's doing. She's put the dead bodies of her victim in this car and she's whipping that thing up and down Fast and the Furious style, causing all this ruckus, all this mayhem on the road. Meanwhile, Dr. Daniel and the 2 cops that he was talking to are in hot pursuit. And let me just say, I am obsessed with the seating arrangement in this cop car. Why is Dr. Eric Daniel sitting shotgun in the middle of this high-speed pursuit while the other cop is sitting in the back? You are the cop. He's not even supposed to be here if you don't get in the front seat, sir. But there's this whole chase scene and then Rachel rams her car off the cliff. There's a big fire explosion and she's presumed dead.
Thank God.
After all that commotion, there's a time jump of a few years. Prolific therapist Dr. Eric Daniel is giving a speech at Quantico because he's written a book about Rachel Newman, calling her one of the most prolific serial killers ever to exist in American history. After his talk, Dr. Eric Daniel sits down to sign copies of his new book when none other than Rachel Newman shows up in a new identity. She's alive and she's taking someone else's identity and is attending Quantico. Okay. Hello, since I am nothing but impartial, and in case this strengthens the movie narratively for somebody out there, I do want to clarify that this new identity that Rachel has taken over is in fact the identity of Professor Starkman's original TA. How she killed this lady and took her identity, don't know, don't care, but that's what's happening. Which, now that I'm thinking about it, she technically could have just done this from the jump to get into Quantico instead of going on her whole killing spree and stuff. But I guess that could be said without any movie, right? Like, then that would just eliminate the point of the movie. And I'm thinking about this too. I'm done thinking about this movie. I'm done thinking about this movie. That's what's happening. Okay, bye. The movie is over. Thank you, Lord. And guys, I didn't like it. I'm not even the biggest fanboy of the original American Psycho movie, but this movie, American Psycho 2, American Psycho I, All-American Girl, deserves to be All-American Disowned. A major component of the original film is that we watch Patrick Bateman's slow descent into madness, and we don't really 100% know exactly who he killed, if he killed anybody, what's real, what's not. Cut to this movie, and he's just labeled as a prolific serial killer. And if he is truly this amazing serial killer in this universe, how is it possible that he is taken down by a 12-year-old child in the first 5 minutes? A child whose whole motivation going forward is to become an undergraduate TA by any means necessary, which is basically a glorified unpaid internship. Look, and I'm all for camp, I'm all for fun, I'm all for quirkiness and plot holes galore. I mean, horror and comedy are soul sisters, they go together like bread and butter. Pero if first movie no camp, why second movie bad camp? That's the question. And the main character, Rachel, she's clearly an intelligent girl. I mean, she outsmarted the coppers and the professor and Dr. Eric Daniel. But I genuinely, like, how did she manage to steal another identity and start working for the FBI? Does the FBI not do any background checks? No fingerprint analysis? Do they not even just look at a picture? If she's this amazing prolific serial killer now, I'm assuming somebody would be able to recognize her. And don't tell me she gets away with it because of her disguise. It's not even a good disguise. She just looks like Rachel with a little blush and a new wig. If she truly is such an infamous serial killer at this point, surely somebody at the F, the B, and the I would look at her and recognize that she is the infamous killer that they have been trained to look out for. And I'm just being nitpicky here because I was bored. And I don't like being bored. I don't recommend the movie. Welp, that's it. That is American Psycho 2, All-American Girl. Another movie that can be added to the long list of sequels that probably shouldn't have happened. I really wonder what this could have been if they never connected this film to American Psycho and instead allowed it to flourish on its own. But I guess we'll never know. If you made it to the end of this video, I want to say thank you so much for watching. If I was in the room with you, I would love to give you a nice firm handshake and a pat on the back because you deserve it. These videos do take me a long time to make, so if you want to show me a little bit of love, you could always subscribe, leave me a like, leave me a comment, tell me what works, tell me what doesn't. Thanks so much for watching again, and hopefully I'll see you again soon.